I'm really excited about your new book and also about a new film coming out. Can we talk about the book first?
Yes, let's talk about Errançities.
Errançities, beautiful title. I saw the note inside the book, a French word. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yes, I was reading Edouard Glissant, the late great Martinican poet, and Edouard Glissant, who just died about last year, and who was a friend of mine. And I was reading in this book, and I saw this word errance, E-R-R-A-N-C-E, and I really was intrigued by that word, so I went and looked it up, and it meant to wander. And wandering, risky wandering, and all those kind of things. And so that kind of pulled me in a little bit more. So I was going to name, I said, I'm going to name my new book. So I wrote a poem, Errance. I wrote a poem called Errance, and it's in the book. And that poem was about wandering around in poetry in different places and all of that. And then after I finished the poem, and then I started looking at the word again, I said, I want to change this word. I want to change this word. I want to Americanize it, or Quincy'ize it.
Yeah.
I call it Quincy'ize it. And so I took the C, and I made the C with a cedilla.
Okay.
A little beard underneath the C.
Okay.
And I changed the E to I. So then it was Errançities.
Beautiful.
You know, it was never Errançities in anyway. So I made it Errançities, and so I loved it. So when I sent it in, my publisher, who is also yours, Alan Kornblum, called me and said, "What is this? What is this? Why are you so difficult? Why are you so difficult with these titles?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to do different things, and I like risky kinds of inventions and kind of innovative ways of looking at stuff." And so he kind of accepted it. So that's where the title came from. Because for the last, since 2006, I've been traveling a lot in different parts of the world and different parts of the United States, doing readings or just going. And so a lot of the poems, some of the poems in this book are about my wanderings.
Okay.
Moving around in different places, in Guadeloupe and Colombia and Brazil and all these different places I've been going. The poems kind of come out of just these different incidents, things that happened in Guadeloupe to me and in New York, and so I kind of put them all in a collection.
Sound like to me there's a correlation between different cities that you've been wandering through. And the second was the idea of motion and change. And I'm wondering if simply moving or motion is a muse for you. Could you speak to either or both of those ideas?
Yeah, I'm trying, the cities, I've always been intrigued by cities in the world. Ever since I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. And the first book that intrigued me when I was very young was Jack London. And Jack London was always running along these trails with his dogs and wolves and going different places. I never wanted to stay in St. Louis, Missouri. I can't tell you why that I never wanted to really live in that city. I was never going to stay there. In my head, it was not a place I was going to stay the rest of my life. I never wanted to stay there. So I always wanted to go someplace else. And I didn't know where that place was. And so I was always, trying to think about other cities where I could be. And first I became intrigued by New York because of Miles Davis was living there, and Los Angeles, and then Paris, and a lot of those cities that were, because they were, I found them intriguing, to want to go and visit. So yes, the city thing about cities was always intriguing to me. So that's a true observation on your point. I always wanted to go through cities because I thought that civilization as we know it now, and culture, or takes place in cities, where you have all of these different people coming together. We were speaking earlier about the Midwest, and especially the little isolated places in the Midwest, little small towns where it's mainly a lot of times, and I'm not saying this in any kind of pejorative way, but they're all old white little people. You know, and they don't feel that nobody else is supposed to, they don't change. They don't want to change. They are afraid of change. And so they are afraid of people like me, you know, when they see me. They're just afraid because, and I'm not saying it's just it's not, because it's all over the world, it's like that. People live and they don't want to change. They don't want to change. But change is every day. Change is what it is in the world. Everything is changing all the time. And those people, Miles Davis said something once that was very important. He said, this critic had written about him and was saying that he was ahead of his time. And he said, I'm not ahead of my time. He said, I'm not ahead of my time. Nobody's ahead of their time. He said, I'm on time. I'm in the time.
Yeah.
He said, 5% of the people in the world are on time, in the time, living in the moment. And 95% of the people are living behind time in some other time. You know what I mean? So they think that you are ahead of time. He said, nobody's ahead of their time. Nobody's ahead of the time. You're either on time, living in the moment. And so I consider myself one of those persons who was one of that 5%, who are living in the moment, who love to meet different people, who love to experience different cultures, who love to experience different food, different music, different fashion statements, to experience another city, to, you know, all of that. And you have to travel to do that.
Yeah.
You can't stay in a place like St. Louis and it's not coming to you there. You know, it's just not Cape Girardeau, Missouri. It's not coming there.
Yeah.
You know, you have to go to places like Budapest or Paris or London or Beijing or Rio or Medellin.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to go to these places to experience them, you know? But the world is changing like that. And we are coming closer and closer with the iPads and the phones and the internet and the computers and all of that. You know, movies, people speaking different languages. And, you know, it's just extraordinary. Airplanes, you know, rocket ships, fast trains, you know, so it's like, that kind of thing is very important to me and important to my work as a poet, you know, to move through these kind of ways, you know, and discovery, trying to discover what is out there.
Yeah.